Bilingual education programs cognitively and academically benefit bilingual and non-bilingual learners. Literacy as it relates to bilingualism is the ability to speak, listen, read, and write in one or more language. Past scientific research indicates that the linguistic abilities of both bilingual and non-bilingual learners positively magnify upon receiving instruction in a native and non-native language. This literature review purposes to explain why and how bilingual education is advantageous to all learners. Lastly, I will explain how French education programs can ensure that students become literate in French vernacular. Why bilingual education? Due to the continuous influx of migrant populations relocating to the United States, classroom teachers instruct approximately 3.8 million ELL students. The Office of English Language Acquisition of the United States Department of Education cites during the years 1999 to 2001, schools experienced a 105% increase in the number of ELL students since 1989. In response to the annual upward trend, school officials have created English language immersion programs, such as dual language and transitional programs. These programs traditionally serve minority populations. However, I believe that all student learners should participate in bilingual education programs because they emphasize the importance of being proficient in reading, writing, speaking, and listening in the language of interest. Historically, the U.S. educational system has not fully embraced the linguistic diversity that is prevalent among students. For example, Native American children in the past were not permitted to speak in their native dialect in U.S. classrooms. Schools helped augment the distorted public perception that bilingualism was a type of impediment. In the same respect, it was analogous to doctors diagnosing patients with physical ailments. The treatment prescribed by school officials is embedded within ESL programs, bilingual programs, etc. Critics oppose the induction of these programs because the national language spoken in the United States is English. Secondly, critics highlight the fact that these programs result in low academic scores for bilingual students. Schools presently give students at the elementary and high school level an opportunity to enroll in foreign language programs such as French and Spanish. From the years 1979 to 2004, foreign language education increased in classrooms from 8% to 50%. Similarly, they believe that native English speakers understandably would not benefit from these programs. On the contrary, case studies documented by bilingual researchers exemplify the fact that foreign language instruction does not necessarily negatively impact the academic achievement of students. For instance, the case study done by Lopez and Tashikori involved finding the literacy outcomes of two bilingual programs on English language learners and native English speakers. The researchers mixed the two group learners into a control and experimental group. Researchers found that the assessment results of the two groups were almost identical. This case study is notable because the kindergartner and first grade students received varying amounts of instruction in English and Spanish. Scientific evidence founded by Ben substantiates how the bilingual programs cognitively help bilingual and non-bilingual learners. According to the research, students utilize the left portion of their brain to process language such as words. When students learn sounds from a second language, the right hemisphere of the brain deciphers pitch and unfamiliar sounds. Bilingual learners use both sides of their brain when learning how to speak, listen, read, and write in a non-native language. This practice helps enhance their cognitive abilities. Students should enroll in French education programs because they emphasize the importance of being proficient in reading, writing, speaking, and listening in French. Similarly, English classes emphasize the importance of learning how to properly read, write, and speak in the English language. Schools such as the Dallas International School located in Texas educate elementary and high school students in both English and French. What thoughts encompass your mind when you think about French education? People often visualize France, French people, and food. When presented the rare opportunity to attend a French class, people generally view French education as being a class created solely for the purpose of learning how to speak the language. Generally, people learn a sufficient amount of French that enables them to communicate in social settings. Cummings classifies this level of bilingualism as being basic interpersonal communicative skills. In my opinion, French education should be more comprehensive. Cognitive academic language proficiency relates to how well a person can grasp information taught by instructors at the secondary or university level of schooling. More specifically, students should learn French language mechanics and become knowledgeable in French literature. Students should learn to appreciate the complexities of the language. The ideal French curriculum would focus on students developing extensive reading, writing, speaking, and listening skills. In my opinion, students should become versed in poetry, literature, and literature in French. Teachers should instruct in both English and French. Classroom activities should help broaden student learning. Integrated learning activities should be implemented. French educators should not simply conjure learning activities that involve students eating native food and learning French landmarks. An exemplary learning activity would challenge the students to understand the history of France and cultural diversity. Scientific studies have proven that a child's academic performance and communication skills potentially increase upon acquiring bilingual skills. This claim is certainly pertinent to the educational setting because it challenges age-old notions of bilingualism characteristically being a hindrance to a child's success rate in school. Bilingualism is a type of literacy. As a future educator, I adamantly support the induction of French education in schools for bilingual and non-bilingual learners.